And it really does make a lot of what some governments are doing look a bit, well, let's be kind and say dated, shall we? A little bit dated. 10 times more potent than immunity generated by vaccine alone. Now, we needed the vaccinations to give us the immunity to enjoy as we were exposed to natural infection, because we're much less likely to get sick and much less likely to die and get hospitalised. But now that I've got immunity from vaccination and that is waning, I believe it's in my interests to be exposed to the natural infection now as soon as possible. Now, I can't tell you what to do, but this is what makes sense to me, and this is what is consistent. That's what makes sense for me personally, but this is consistent with this thinking that we're looking at here. Now, we've had this idea of hybrid immunity, which is supposed to be a sort of super immunity. So the hybrid immunity, of course, is if you've had the vaccine and you've had the infection, you're supposed to be super immune. But the data isn't really showing that. The data is showing that if you've had the natural infection, if you have vaccination as well, it doesn't really help that much. It's the natural infection which is the key thing. So the hybrid immunity is good in the short term. So we can get. So I want to get infected with the natural variant while I'm still protected with vaccine, rather than when my vaccine protection is worn off. And that will give me hybrid immunity. But it looks like it's the natural infection that's giving the longer term immunity, irrespective of whether infection came first or the vaccine came first. Now, we did think at first there was data that showed if you were vaccinated and then had the infection, you had good levels of immunity. But it seems to work the other way around. So whether you're infection first, then vaccine, or whether you're vaccine first, then immunity, then the natural infection, it doesn't really seem to make much difference. But if you have the vaccine as well, it doesn't really add that much to the natural immunity, is what this data seems to be showing. There's an increased evidence that immunity derived from natural infection with COVID-19 gives powerful protection. And the thing to underline there is on its own. On its own. So that is basically the thrust of this article. Let's just look at a couple of more things it says. Natural immunity has been shown to be both highly protective and long-lasting. So it looks like